sensitive the markets are to any commentary about trade. We did see some pressure on the yuan, we did see some pressure on the futures. That is now being reversed.
Lots happening on Wall Street.
It's the basic law of economics.
The Fed is telling us this is transitory.
Need to catch up?
This is Bloomberg Wall Street Week. I'm David Weston.
We've got the information and insights.
David, you just hit the nail right on the head.
From businesses most influential and instrumental.
And that's the way you run good risk management.
We need to invest in our systems.
Bloomberg Wall Street Week premieres Friday with replays all weekend on Bloomberg Television and Radio.
Mercedes-Benz is on a path towards CO2 neutral mobility. So we have flicked the switch there, and really we're going to step by step electrify everything. And what does that mean? Combustion engines get electrified.
So what's the pleasure of being a real estate investor, which you've been doing for almost 30 years, as opposed to being a private equity investor or being some other type of investor? What is it that you liked about real estate that kept you in it for 30-some years?
I would say I love the people. I love learning about all these different places. I mean, I got to see all of the United States, virtually all of the developed world. You know, when you're investing in, you know, pharmaceutical businesses or other companies, it's harder to say, I have real expertise about the efficacy of this drug versus that drug. But as an individual, you can say, I've been in a neighborhood here, I'm in Oakland today, gosh, it feels a lot like Brooklyn did as it started to gentrify, I'll connect the dots and do this. So I think the tangible nature of it, the experience, if you love to travel, if you love to see places, I think real estate's hard to beat.
Let's suppose somebody's watching this and they say, okay, this guy has done a great job of building a great real estate business. I want to invest with him, or I want to invest in real estate. For the individual investor, what is the best way to invest in real estate?
So for the individual investor, I'd say there are a couple of ways. One is there's a public REIT market where you can invest in some excellent companies here in the United States. There are REITs, frankly, around the world. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it today is we have things called private REITs. We at Blackstone have a vehicle called BREIT, which today owns primarily logistics and rental apartments across the southeast and southwest of the United States. And that's another way to do it. There are others who offer similar products. For some who are more adventurous, they can partner with local developers, let's say. The challenge I worry about that is just misalignment of interests and liquidity. How do you get out at some point, you know, investing, and you're generally not getting a lot of diversity in that approach.
Well, are you worried about the economy now? The economy's been pretty good, but it probably will head down at some point. The economy is always correct. So if I say I want to invest in real estate, is now a good time, or should I wait a while before the economy corrects?
I think it's still a pretty good time for real estate, and I'd say it for a couple of reasons. One is the warning signs for real estate are twofold. Too much leverage, too much capital, and we don't really have that in the real estate system today. The other, too many cranes, too much building. And we're actually below historic levels in terms of new supply. The other thing I'd point out, if you looked at the S&P 500, it's delivered something like 4 times the return of public REITs since the beginning of 20, before COVID. So real estate is lagging coming out of the recovery because obviously people have been concerned about the physical world. I think real estate here, as the economy reopens, people go back into spaces, is going to see a little bit of a bounce. I think the risk is, you know, do interest rates move a lot? That's a bit of a threat. I would say one positive thing about real estate also is inflation, remember, drives up the replacement cost of buildings. And that gives you a little bit of a cushion on existing real estate.
Where should I not invest my money?
You should stay away from buggy whip businesses. You should stay away from landline phone companies and some of the legacy retailers, some legacy media businesses. You want to focus on the future. And I would just say this on real estate in particular, if I had one piece of advice, where geographically, is go where the creative and technology types are, because those are the markets where there'll be the most economic activity. So the West Coast of the United States, Austin, Texas, Cambridge, Shenzhen, London, Amsterdam, Tel Aviv, Bangalore. Tech is driving so much of the growth in this global economy. Those are the most interesting places to invest.
Okay? Do people come up to you at cocktail parties remember what cocktail parties were when people used to get together? They ever ask you for any investment advice? And you always say, just invest with my firm? Or what do you give people advice?
You know, people, it's funny, they often ask me residential home prices, which is not my area of expertise. And, you know, what I tend to tell people is focus on the longer term. Focus on, you know, I think the danger of the world we live in, the sort of Snapchat, TikTok, meme stock thing is dangerous. And what you want to say is this fundamentally a good business? Is it in a good sector? Is this a good piece of real estate where supply is limited, demand is favorable? And if you own something good, hold it for a long period of time. So to me, find those right neighborhoods to invest in, deploy your capital, and then be patient.
John, thank you for a great overview of the real estate investment world, and I appreciate you giving us this time.
Thank you, David. It's been terrific.
When you think space, you probably think one space agency that travels under the radar is ESA, which is surprising considering what the European Space Agency has achieved and how vital it is to the global space industry.
We've collaborated with pretty much everybody who is involved in space exploration.
ESA wants to be a leading force in furthering humanity's mission into space.
Commander Ground, do you copy? Copy.
If we want to have successful human missions to Mars, we are going to have to learn to live and work off-world in a different way. The place where we are going to learn to do that is on the moon.
Can ESA help humanity take its next giant leap?
I think that it's hard to put your head around any narrative. Let's just be honest. We've had sort of a shift in, are we in some sort of stagflation fears moment? People were talking about that all day yesterday.
There are a lot of EVs coming to market. And I'm wondering, do you think that just the market share explodes and there's room for everybody? Or is there a specific market that you're going after right now?
At Vingroup and VinFast is the same way. We're building premium quality products for mass market. And we do expect that there's an irreversible trend to move from internal combustion engine vehicles to electric vehicles. So yes, the market share would expand.
How much money do you think you're going to have to sort of pump into everything right now? You also mentioned, this is an announcement from last year, that you're going to start a factory here in the U.S. Where are you in that? What kind of money are you looking to have to deploy?
So far, VinFast has put in about $6 billion so far into VinFast. And we plan to have a few more $1 billion investment.
BSO Now is your online home for weekly Boston Symphony Orchestra and Boston Pops performances. See new concerts that go behind the scenes, plus acclaimed archival concerts. Visit bso.org/now, where the music plays on. BSO season sponsor, Bank of America.
I would say the best wealth managers in the world do much more listening than they do talking. You should never invest in something that can't be simplistically explained to you. You know, the most important thing is to be able to save early, and if someone can be there to help you through that, you know, that's one of the most important things.
when it comes to wealth management, Mary Callahan Erdos is best in class.
Mary was a student in my class at Harvard Business School. There was something about her in that class where when she spoke, people paid attention, people listened.
From Harvard Business School, Mary made her way to Wall Street, joining J.P. Morgan in 1996.
Yeah, it was like a rocket. It was just fascinating to see her grow.
Mary became CEO of J.P. Morgan's asset and wealth management businesses in 2009, and under her leadership, client assets in those divisions swelled from $1.6 trillion to $4 trillion. And she's expanded the businesses into new markets everywhere from Las Vegas to Amsterdam. When you were growing up, did you say, I want to manage $4 trillion when I'm an adult?
I wish I had had that clairvoyance back then, but no. My first foray into the money
apartment. And what do you think, for example, you would tell people not to invest in? Or is there something you'd say, do not ever invest in X, Y, or Z?
Well, now, I'll have a lot of people that disagree with this, but I would think, you shouldn't invest in cryptocurrencies. Ultimately, I think cryptocurrencies, regardless of where they're trading today, whether they go up from here or down, will eventually prove to be worthless. So there is no value to them. It's just a question of supply and demand, and once the exuberance wears off or liquidity dries up, these will go to zero. So I wouldn't recommend anyone invest in cryptocurrencies.
Of all the things you've said in this interview, I think that's probably going to get the most attention from people, probably, we'll see.
Possibly, yeah.
And you hope your children will get into the investing world at some point?
Well, I always say you should do what you're passionate about. I happen to always found investing from a very young age to be fun. So I like buying things, selling things. I like making money and the independence that earning money gives me and allows me to have a lifestyle. So that's what I like, but you can't force that upon someone. So the most important thing is to pursue your passion, because you can be successful in anything. You can be successful in music, dance, medicine, physics, math. The important thing is that you pursue a career in what you're naturally passionate about, and that will improve your odds of achieving success.